Sit with me, if you have a moment. Not just with your body, but with your heart. Let's not rush. Life has done enough of that already, hasn't it? I want to tell you about a conversation I had many years ago, one that still echoes in my thoughts. Even now, after all these years of meditation, wandering, and solitude. She was 92. Her hands trembled, not with weakness, but with the weight of stories. A grandmother, yes. A widow. A woman who had buried her children and outlived her peers. But when she spoke, when she spoke, it was like the mountains leaning down to whisper secrets. She said, "Most people don't live, they just postpone." And I asked her, "What do you mean?" She looked me in the eye and said, "They wait for the right moment, for peace, for time, for love, for success. But those things come when you begin, not when you wait. And isn't that true? Think of all the mornings you opened your eyes and said, 'Maybe tomorrow I'll do what really matters.' But what if tomorrow never comes?" That's why she told me this, and it stayed with me. Live like you're already the age you wish you didn't waste. When I became a monk, I thought wisdom came from scriptures and silence, and while there's truth in that, some of the deepest truths came not from the pages of a holy book, but from people like her. People who have tasted life deeply. People who have lost enough to know what's worth keeping. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat with yourself, not scrolling, not performing, but just being? It's uncomfortable, I know, because in that stillness you meet yourself. And sometimes that person is a stranger. But the 92-year-old woman told me this. The most important conversation you'll ever have is the one with your own soul. You see, we chase validation, comfort, love, but few pause long enough to ask, do I even know myself well enough to give myself those things? I remember once, as a young monk, I was sweeping the courtyard in silence. A man came up to me, frustrated. He said, "I've built a business, I have money, I have children, but I feel hollow." I asked him, "Have you ever forgiven yourself for who you were before all that?" He looked at me confused, and I said, "Achievement cannot fix self-neglect. We wear accomplishments like armor, but inside, the child who was neglected still cries. The teenager who was misunderstood still aches. The adult who made mistakes still punishes himself." But here's the truth I want you to sit with today, my friend. You cannot rush healing. You cannot buy peace. You cannot escape yourself by achieving more. And you don't need there's a quieter path, a slower one. This is what that wise old woman knew, that your soul doesn't need speed, it needs sincerity. She told me, if I could go back, I wouldn't work more, I wouldn't try harder. I'd listen longer, hug longer, forgive quicker, and I'd spend more time barefoot in the garden. It was never about what she built, it was about what she felt while building. And I wonder, what are you building right now? Is it costing you your peace? Because no success is worth the price of inner silence. Slight pause, gentle breath. Let me share a small story before we continue. When I was in my 30s, I visited a village in the Himalayan foothills. There was a woman there who had lived through famine, war, and the death of her 2 sons. But she greeted me with a smile that held no bitterness, only softness. I asked her, "How do you smile after all you've seen?" She said, "Because my pain was not my prison. It became my prayer. This is the wisdom we overlook. Most people think spirituality means avoiding suffering, but it's not. It's about transforming it, letting it ripen you, soften you, until compassion grows where resentment used to live. You see, What she and the 92-year-old woman shared was not a technique, it was a presence. They chose to meet, life with open hands, not clenched fists, and you can too. But first, we must become still. Still enough to listen to the soul. Let's pause here. Just breathe with me for a moment. Inhale slowly, and exhale even slower. This breath is yours. This moment is yours. You're not too late. You haven't missed your chance. The only thing that's asked of you is to begin now. And from here, we continue. Because the story of this 92-year-old elder is far from over. She had much more to say about love, about regrets, about what she wished every young man would understand before it's too late. You're still here. That means something. It means you're not just looking for noise. You're looking for meaning, for truth, for something that sits with you even after the video ends. Let me tell you the rest of what she shared. We were sitting on a wooden bench, her old hands folded neatly on her lap, the afternoon sun pouring through the leaves like gentle blessings. She looked at me and said, "There are 5 things every man should learn before his bones ache and his heart tires." I asked her what those 5 things were. She didn't hesitate. First, she said, "Pride is expensive. It costs you love." How many families have drifted apart because no one was willing to say, "I was wrong"? How many apologies were buried with the dead instead of spoken to the living? She looked out across the garden and whispered, "The strongest men I ever knew were the ones who cried when it mattered." So don't be fooled by this world's noise that says masculinity is silence. True strength is softness mastered. Second, she said, "Time doesn't heal all wounds. Intention does. You cannot wait for pain to fade like a storm. You must tend to it. Water it with forgiveness. Expose it to the sunlight of truth. You want to heal? Speak what you've been too afraid to name. Write it. Weep it. Share it with someone who won't fix it but will hold it with you. And most importantly, forgive yourself for not healing faster." Third, she leaned in closer, her voice a whisper. "People will forget what you gave them, but they will never forget how safe they felt around you." I was silent. That one struck deep. Because don't we all remember the people who held space for us without judgment? The ones who didn't rush our sadness, didn't question our stillness? Be that person, not the one who knows all the answers. Be the one who listens so deeply, the other person hears their own truth. Fourth, she said, "Stop searching for the right moment. Make this one right." So many people wait for the perfect time to begin healing, to say, "I love you," to say, "I'm sorry," to start the dream, to leave the noise behind and begin their inner work. But the perfect moment is a myth sold by fear. Start now. Messy, imperfect, uncertain. Begin with trembling hands. Just begin. And lastly, she smiled, and with a twinkle in her tired eyes, she said, "Life will ask you the same question again and again in different forms. Will you respond with fear or with love?" She paused. Most of the time, I answered with fear. I was afraid of what people thought, afraid of change, afraid of being alone, afraid of failing. And now, looking back, the only moments I regret are the ones where I didn't choose love. That was when I realized that her wisdom wasn't just advice. It was a roadmap, not to success, not to fame, but to peace. She didn't ask me to meditate longer, or chant more, or fast. She simply asked me to live with more kindness, to notice more sunsets, to call people just to say, "You matter to me." To let people in, even when it's easier to shut down. And she was right, because at the end of it all, it's not about how many books you read, how many awards you earned, how perfectly you lived. It's about how deeply you felt, how bravely you forgave, and how often you chose to be present, even when it hurt. That's the truth we forget. You, watching this right now, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are exactly where the path begins again. So breathe, right. Here is your sacred moment, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. It's the only place your soul truly exists. And if you take just one thing from this entire message, let it be this. The life you're looking for isn't out there. It's already within you, waiting for your attention. Don't wait until you're 92 to understand this. You don't need to suffer longer than necessary. You don't need to perform to be worthy. You are already enough. Right here, right now, and when the day comes, many years from now, when you're the one sitting in that chair, telling stories to a young soul seeking meaning, what will you say? Will you say, I waited? Or will you say, I lived, I felt, I gave, I healed, I tried, even when I was scared? Choose now, begin again. Your soul is not waiting for the perfect plan. It's waiting for your presence. Thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for listening, not just with your ears, but with your heart. If these words met you where you needed them most, leave a comment below. Not for me, but for the next person who's quietly scrolling, hoping to feel less alone. And if you know someone who needs this reminder, don't hesitate. Send it. Whisper it. Be the light that finds them. Until next time, be gentle, be present, and above all, be love. Your presence is the prayer.